Have you ever really looked at a logo and wondered what makes it so great? You know, it's so much more than just a cool-looking picture. It's a whole story, a business plan, all packed into one single glance. In this explainer, we're going to dive deep into the art and, yeah, the science of creating logos that people just can't forget. Okay, let's start with a classic. Everybody knows the Nike swoosh, right? But what about the actual text? I mean, why this font? Do you think they just picked one that looked cool, or is there something a little more strategic going on here? And this slide right here, this reveals the whole game. Nike's font is bold, it's modern, and it practically screams power and motion. Makes perfect sense for a sports brand, right? Now look at that next to Aston Martin. It's elegant, classic, totally refined. It's speaking a completely different language to a luxury audience. See? These choices were not accidents. They were 100% deliberate, strategic decisions. So how do the greats actually pull this off? Well, in our first section, we're going to decode that secret language. We're breaking down the fundamental principles that make the world's best logos so incredibly powerful. Here is the absolute key to all of this. The most iconic logos aren't just a random spark of creativity. No way. They're a masterclass in visual communication. They're built on a really deep understanding of human psychology and business strategy. And the best part? It's a skill that you can actually learn. A lot of the time, it all starts with the font. You've got serif fonts. Those are the ones with the little feet on the letters. They just feel traditional, sophisticated. Think about a fancy law firm or a luxury brand. Then you have sans serif fonts without the feet, and those feel modern, clean, and simple. The font you choose sends an instant message about your brand's whole personality. And you know, it goes way beyond just the text. There's this other crucial tool designers use called shape psychology. Basically, it's the science of how our brains are literally hardwired to interpret different shapes. We assign them meaning and emotion without even thinking about it. This table just lays it out perfectly. Circles make us think of community, of unity, which is exactly why Starbucks uses one. Squares and rectangles, they feel stable, reliable, a perfect fit for a company like Microsoft. And triangles, they give you a sense of motion, power, and innovation, which is exactly the vibe a heavy machinery brand like Caterpillar is going for. And of course, there's color. Color is another incredibly powerful layer here. I mean, think about it. Red creates this sense of urgency. Blue builds trust. Green connects us to nature and growth. Even black can signal prestige and authority. Every single color choice is a strategic signal you're sending to your audience. It's instantly shaping how they see you. So finally, you take all these things, the font, the shape, the color, and they come together in a few different types of logos. A word mark is just the text, like Google. A brain mark is just the symbol, like the Apple logo. But a combination mark, which is the most common, uses both. Just understanding these basic categories is a huge step in figuring out how to tell your brand's story best. Okay, so you get the building blocks now, but how do you actually put them all together? Let's move on and look at the step-by-step process for turning a simple idea into a truly iconic logo. You know, a great logo isn't born in some flash of genius. It's forged. It's built through this really methodical four-phase journey. You have to start with deep research, then you move into creative sketching, then you execute it digitally, and finally, you refine and test it like crazy. And let me tell you, phase one is by far the most important. Before you even think about opening up a design program, you have to understand the problem you're trying to solve. Who is this for? What does the brand even stand for? Because a logo without a strategy, well, it's just a pretty picture. It's just decoration. Now, once you get to that refinement stage, the pros have a secret weapon. It's called a grid. And this isn't about killing creativity. It's about achieving this almost mathematical perfection and harmony in the final design. Honestly, this is what separates the amateur stuff from the professional designs. Grids make sure every single line, every curve, and every bit of space is perfectly aligned and proportional. It's how you get that super clean, polished look that just feels right. So how do you know if you actually nailed it? You run these 3 super simple tests. First, does it still work when it's tiny, like a little 16-pixel icon in a browser tab? Second, if you blur it, is the basic shape still recognizable? And third, can somebody remember the main idea after looking at it for just 5 seconds? If you can say yes to all 3, you've probably got a winner.
All right, knowing what to do is really only half the battle. Now we need to quickly run through some of the most common mistakes that can totally tank an otherwise great logo concept.
First up, trying way too hard. Just piling on gradients and drop shadows and every other effect you can find in your software. It almost never makes a logo better. Usually it just makes it look dated and kind of cheap. You gotta remember, a strong, timeless logo doesn't need all those bells and whistles.
Mistake number 2 is just a lack of precision. Uneven spacing, bad alignment, pixelated edges. These tiny little details instantly scream amateur. This is exactly why using those grids we talked about is so important for getting a professional finish. Look, we've said it before, but it's so important it's worth saying again. Designing without a clear strategy is probably the single biggest mistake you can make. If you don't know who you're talking to or what you're even trying to say, your logo is pretty much guaranteed to miss the mark. And finally, please, don't fall in love with your first idea. The whole creative process is about exploration and refinement. The best logos are almost never the first ones you sketch out. You have to push your concepts, see where they can go. Okay, so you've learned the principles, you've learned the process. Now for the really exciting part. Let's talk about how you can take this powerful new skill and turn it into a real source of income.
Basically, there are two main paths you can go down. There's the freelance route, finding clients on sites like Upwork and making custom logos for them, or you can build a passive income stream. You can create digital logo packs, design them once, and then sell them over and over again on places like Etsy. And that whole passive income thing, it's way more accessible than you might think. A simple, really well-designed logo pack for a specific niche, like, say, for coffee shops or personal trainers, can easily go for around $20 on a site like Etsy. You make it once, and that thing can generate sales for years. So, look, if there's one thing you take away from all this, let it be this. A logo is never just a logo. It is the visual summary of a brand's entire story, its strategy, its soul, all wrapped up in a single, memorable mark. You now have the tools to not only decode them, but to create them. So the final question is, what story will your logo tell?